The screen fades in from black. A soft hum of jazz fills the air. Muted trumpet, brushed drums, the distant echo of a saxophone. The narrator's voice begins calm, immersive, and cinematic. Imagine stepping into a time machine and emerging into the streets of New York City in the 1950s. The war is over. The skyline is rising. The city is alive with ambition, industry, and transformation. This is not just a place. It's a moment in history, a moment where old-world grit meets futuristic dreams. And today, using AI reconstruction, we're not just remembering it, we're bringing it back to life. New York in the 1950s was a city defined by contrast. Towering above Manhattan stood icons like the Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building, symbols of pre-war ambition that now watched over a rapidly modernizing world. These buildings weren't just structures, they were statements, steel and stone declarations that New York was the center of the modern age. At street level, however, the story was different. Yellow cabs wove through traffic. Newspaper boys shouted headlines about Cold War tensions. And everywhere, people moved with purpose. The 1950s marked a critical turning point in American urban life. After the end of World War II, New York became a magnet for opportunity. Soldiers returned home, industries boomed, and the economy surged. This era saw the rise of the American middle class, and with it, a cultural shift that reshaped the city. Yet, unlike the suburban explosion happening across the country, New York remained dense, vertical, and intensely urban. AI reconstruction allows us to visualize these streets in astonishing detail. Using archival photographs, film reels, and historical records, machine learning models recreate entire neighborhoods, brick by brick, shadow by shadow. We can now walk down Fifth Avenue as it looked in 1953. Storefronts gleam with polished glass. Macy's windows display elegant post-war fashion. Men in tailored suits and fedoras pass by women in full-skirted dresses. Their style influenced by designers like Christian Dior, whose new look defined the decade. But fashion was only one layer of identity. The 1950s were also the golden age of media. In Manhattan, the headquarters of major networks like NBC and CBS buzzed with activity. Television sets were becoming household staples, and New York was at the center of this broadcast revolution. Shows were filmed live, studios were electric with energy, and families across America tuned in, connecting to the city in ways never before possible. Yet beneath the polished surface, New York was also a city of deep social complexity. The 1950s were marked by segregation, inequality, and the early rumblings of the civil rights movement. In neighborhoods like Harlem, African American communities thrived culturally, even as they faced systemic barriers. Jazz clubs lit up the night. Legends like Miles Davis and Duke Ellington performed in smoke-filled venues, shaping a sound that would echo for generations. AI reconstructions of Harlem reveal a vibrant, dynamic environment. Neon signs flicker above crowded streets. Music spills out onto sidewalks. The energy is palpable. This wasn't just entertainment. It was expression, resistance, and identity. Through AI, we can now see these moments not as distant memories, but as living, breathing scenes. Transportation in 1950s New York was another defining feature. The subway system, part of the iconic New York City subway, was already one of the largest in the world. Trains rattled through tunnels beneath the city, connecting boroughs and people. Above ground, elevated trains still ran in parts of Manhattan, Brooklyn, casting long shadows over the streets below. Cars, too, were becoming more prominent, reflecting America's growing love affair with the automobile. AI models reconstruct not just the visuals, but the motion, the rhythm of traffic lights changing, the flow of pedestrians crossing intersections, even the subtle flicker of analog signage. These details matter because they bring authenticity. They transform static images into immersive experiences. The architecture of the 1950s also tells a story of transition. While Art Deco still dominated many skylines, a new style was emerging: modernism. Clean lines, glass facades, and functional design began to replace ornate detailing. Buildings like the Lever House introduced the international style to the city, signaling a shift toward a more global, minimalist aesthetic. At the same time, massive urban development projects were reshaping neighborhoods. Influential figures like Robert Moses spearheaded infrastructure expansions, highways, bridges, and public housing. While these projects modernized the city, they also displaced communities, leaving lasting impacts that are still debated today. One of the most fascinating aspects of AI reconstruction is its ability to simulate daily life. We can observe a typical morning in 1955, a man reading the New York Times on a subway platform, a child walking to school, a vendor selling hot dogs on a busy corner. These are not just visuals, they are stories, micro moments that define an era. The cultural heartbeat of 1950s New York extended far beyond jazz. Broadway aiders lit up Times Square, showcasing musicals that would become classics. The district around Times Square was already a dazzling spectacle of lights and advertisements. Though not yet the digital explosion we see today, it was still a symbol of entertainment and excess. Cinema also played a major role. Movie palaces across the city screened films that captured the imagination of millions. Actors like Marlon Brando and Audrey Hepburn became icons, their images projected onto massive screens in ornate theaters. AI reconstruction doesn't just rebuild environments, it recontextualizes them. By combining spatial data with historical context, we gain a deeper understanding of how people interacted with their surroundings. We see how design influenced behavior, how culture shaped space, and how space, in turn, shaped culture. Of course, no exploration of 1950s New York would be complete without acknowledging the Cold War backdrop. The tension between the United States and the Soviet Union influenced everything, from politics to education to media. Air raid drills were conducted in schools. Nuclear anxiety lingered in the background, and yet life continued with remarkable resilience. Another layer of transformation came from immigration. New York has always been a city of newcomers, and the 1950s were no exception. Waves of immigrants brought diverse cultures, languages, and traditions, enriching the city's identity. Neighborhoods became mosaics of global influence: Italian, Jewish, Irish, Puerto Rican, all contributing to the urban fabric. AI tools help visualize these cultural layers. By analyzing demographic data and historical records, reconstructions can reflect the diversity of specific neighborhoods at specific times. This adds depth and accuracy, ensuring that the past is represented not just visually, but contextually. As we move through this reconstructed city, one thing becomes clear. New York in the 1950s was not static. It was evolving rapidly, unpredictably, and powerfully. It was a city balancing tradition and innovation, struggle and success, individuality and community. And perhaps that's why AI reconstruction is so powerful. It doesn't just show us what things look like. It helps us understand what they meant. It bridges the gap between then and now, allowing us to experience history in a way that feels immediate and real. The screen slowly transitions to a wide aerial view of Manhattan. The skyline glows under the golden light of sunset. Cars move like tiny sparks below. The river reflects the fading sky. And for a moment, time stands still. But this isn't just a glimpse into the past. It's a reminder of how far we've come, and how much of that journey is still visible in the city today. The foundations of modern New York were built in this era. The energy, the ambition, the diversity, all traces back to moments like these. So the next time you see a black and white photograph of New York in the 1950s, remember this. Behind every image is a world of motion, sound, emotion, and life. And thanks to AI, that world is no longer lost. It's waiting to be explored again.